We're all for the advancement of technology and tech solutions in Nigeria. Joining us now is Yinka Adewale, co-founder and CEO of Kudi.ai. Kudi.ai provides ease in making payments online with a more humanistic touch. Welcome to the morning show, Yinka.
Welcome to the morning show, Yinka. Tell us about the humanistic touch. I'm interested in that.
Okay, so at Kudi, we believe that commerce and payment is largely conversational. So, for example, if I'm going to ask you for money, I'm most likely going to give you a call or send you a message to say, hey, please, I need 5,000 naira, for example. So we believe that the way people sort of think about payments and transactions in their mind sort of comes in messages. So what Kudi does is to make that experience into technology whereby you could chat with Kudi and say, hi, I need to buy airtime. And then Kudi gets back to you to say, how much do you want to buy? So it's more like an assistant that walks you through that transaction process.
Okay, would you say she's, is it he or she?
Yeah, it's a she.
She? Okay. Yeah. A lot of people are using, she's a Diamond Bank using Ada.
Yeah, true.
So would you say it's similar to Siri, but actually goes an extra mile?
Yeah, so it's still largely, so the technology word for such a technology, for example, you could say it's a bot, for example.
It's a chatbot.
Yeah, it's a chatbot. So, but what we're doing right now, it's mostly conversation. So you can't talk to Kudi in words like voice to say, hey, it's not a phone call, but it uses messaging.
Okay.
Yeah. For us, at the core of what we do, we wanted to simplify payments for everybody. Launching a business is hard. You have to get so many things right. You have to build an infrastructure that allows you get to reach your end customer. You shouldn't have to struggle to accept payment from that customer. But at the time, the solution out there for businesses didn't address this problem. So in 2016, we launched a chatbot that was going to solve this problem and revolutionize payments for businesses.
But boy, did the market have other plans? I mean, our model was great, our chatbot was exceptional, our investors were super pumped to have backed us. However, the market's response to what we had built was interesting. There was this one user, a mobile money agent. He found our interface really easy to use. The way he and his team used our chatbot for his agency banking business opened our eyes to a whole new range of possibilities. So we thought we were solving for one thing, but we stumbled on something much bigger. We're trying to simplify payments for underbanked and underserved communities. Our chatbot did exactly that, actually, thinking about it now, just not in the way we intended.
We did our research and we found out that our chatbot was popular among mobile money agents. And the reason was it was simple to use. Before we launched, it was very difficult for anyone to become a mobile money agent. To sign up, you have to visit the physical address of these mobile money operators, which is in Lagos, by the way. And we have thousands of people trying to become agents all across Nigeria. So if you were in Port Harcourt, for example, and needed to sign up, you take a bus or a flight to Lagos, you go to their office, you get this long form, and then it takes a couple of weeks before you can become an agent. What we did was simple. In 2017, we launched a mobile app and a point of sale that allowed anyone to sign up and become an agent in 5 minutes. And boom, they could start providing access to financial services to their communities, and they could earn a living while doing that. Before we knew it, it was huge. It was a game changer. There was millions of people sending money and receiving money all across Nigeria.
And here we are today. We are part of an industry that simplified the lives of millions of people. We put food on their tables based on the work we do. In partnership with banks, licensed financial institutions, our distinct point of sale technology has democratized access to core banking solutions and financial services to merchants across Nigeria. We offer them payment options, savings accounts, loans, and so on. We offer our partners access to daily loans. This means they never run out of funds working with us. Many of them use this to expand their business to multiple locations and offer financial services to even more people. Presently, there are over 150,000 businesses on the Nomba platform, enabled to carry out card, cash, and bank transfer related transactions for themselves and on behalf of their customers. And these numbers are growing really fast. We are currently averaging about 10,000 new business signups every month, and we are hoping to triple that number before the end of the year. Considering we have businesses across every region of the country, we're able to offer larger businesses a cash digitization service. They can use our merchant locations to digitize their cash, to extend their reach, and to scale cheaply across the country.
We call this marketplace. We've come this far because we've been surrounded by the most creative minds who are always asking these questions. Where do we go from here, and what's next? Over the last couple of years, myself and Pelumi, we've created an environment that allows ideas thrive, fail quickly, and pivot to ensure we keep evolving our business.
Hi, sorry to cut in.
Oh, hi, Dorian.
Hi, Dorian.
Hi, guys. You know, I'm a big fan of how you two tell the origin story, but I think you've left out some of the honest struggle. You know, where are the sleepless nights? Living and dreaming nothing but code. Scrambling after customers to make sure they were happy. You know, those were the Y Combinator days. Living on a shoestring budget in San Francisco and coding 24/7 to meet targets for our investors. I mean, the fact that this company is here today is a result of hard work, sacrifice, and God's grace. The first no that we received was heart-wrenching. And that was after jumping through all those hoops. And then, out of nowhere, it became a yes at the very last minute. What about taking all of that money, building multiple chatbots, getting no traction, and then having to go back to our investors to tell them that?
That was rough.
That was rough, man.
Yes, it was. And I think it serves our audience to know that sometimes your first idea needs a little help to thrive. Then there was Otumba. Surely our story isn't complete without sharing his side.
Right, Dorian. The story is incomplete without mentioning Otumba, the mysterious mobile money agent who got all of this started. And YC as well, huge thanks to them for giving us the platform to get started. I guess it's only reasonable to give Otumba a minute to share his side of the story.
My name is Otumba Abdurafi Oluwole. I'm a Kudi aggregator. I started as a Kudi agent, and the first Kudi agent in the year late 2016, early 2017. How I got to know about Kudi, a friend told me that he know about a platform that can do free transfer, free bill payment, free everything. Because then, we pay charges to do bill payments, transfers, etc. So I feel this is not possible. So he said it's possible, but I'm going to pay him a token to give me the link. So I said, okay, fine. So after linking me up, I started using the platform. I realized that actually it is a free deposit. So I started using this for some months. So at the point in time, I have little issues on few transactions that the beneficiary are not receiving their values. So I started with support. Some of the issues are not resolved. So I became panicked. So I googled the website address of Kudi. So I got the address. I went to the office at Lekki Phase 1. So when I got there, I met guys. I said, this is interesting. I told them my issues, so they made an inquiry about it. A guy said, okay, no problem. I shouldn't have come to the office in the first instance. I said, no, this is money matter. The customers are disturbing me because it is with the mobile agents that the customers are used to. So they said, okay, I should go. It will be resolved. So I wasn't happy the way the guy attended to me. So there and then I made up my mind that I'm going to stop using the platform. So I returned. So as I was going, I just saw that about two guys just came. I entered First Bank at the Admiralty way to resolve some other issues. So two guys just followed me. That's, hello guy. I said, what's up? He said, just come to our office now just come to Kudi office now. I said, yes. I said, what's happened? He said, sorry, we are very sorry the way we attended to you. So one of the guys, Belumi, so he said, we are very sorry the way we attended to you. What is the issue? So I told you everything about it. He apologized profusely and he talked in a very good way. So I became up with that. So somebody can be so accommodative and then, so he said, no problem. He collected my number, we exchanged numbers, I left. So later, I was invited to a meeting to look at the old issues and then the agency banking proper. So we held a meeting at a centralizer in Agogi. Yeah, centralizer in Agogi. So I and some Kudi staff, Pelumi, Yinka, and a few other guys like that. I was asked several questions. I also asked questions from them about their platform, about the security, about the safety. So they assured me of the security and everything. So we started. As I started inviting some other colleagues into the business. As at that time, PS is not as, mobile money agency is not as rampant as now. So I started inviting people, they started using the platform. So, and then the transition became more, from the support we discussed, because I told them the issues we have on the field, we that are mobile money agents. So Kudi said they are going to resolve most of those issues. And then after I came to the office to report that thing, a lot of support channels were offered to make the experience to be more fantastic, apart from the one they have on ground already. So they introduced some other support means by which issues are resolved. So that increased the confidence in the mobile money agents, among the mobile money agents. So they have more confidence doing business with Kudi for the till date.
That was a pleasant journey down memory lane. This new page in our evolution story leans on our commitment to enabling businesses to fully benefit from the digital economy by ensuring they have the business and payment tools they need to thrive. In Nigeria, a lot of payments are still done in store and largely offline. Over 25 million merchants to date do not accept any form of digital payments. These businesses do not have a digital footprint, which exclude them from other benefits such as loans and exposure to new markets. Many of the retail businesses who do accept digital payments today lack a unified platform to seamlessly manage their businesses across multiple touchpoints and multiple locations. From payment collection to trade financing to intelligent business reporting, even multiple location management, businesses largely depend on traditional banks who do not provide an ecosystem of services to support their business needs. The banks manage their money, which is good. However, businesses need so much more. They need to be able to manage their inventory, they need to be able to manage their cash flow, many other tools that will enable them be more efficient. Having all of this on one platform will really make a difference and make business easier. With Nomba, underserved and fully fledged businesses can self-onboard in 5 minutes, order a fully serviced integrated terminal and dashboard designed to manage all their payments needs, whether in cash, card, transfers, USSD payments, QR transactions across multiple locations. Over the next couple of months, Nomba will extend the penetration of its POS terminals across the country, giving businesses access to technology that delivers real-time oversight of all the business transactions, whether it's a one-man business or it's a corporate, all on one dashboard.
Now the brand is ready to take the next step in its evolution journey, and we want to make sure that we have a name and an identity that's our own and cannot be confused with anything or anyone else. So, Nomba. I love the new name. Our lives are inundated with numbers and figures, and having a firm grasp of those numbers keeps us in control. In business, this couldn't be more true. You must know your numbers, be able to leverage your numbers to make even more, well, numbers.
First question today will be, tell us how your entrepreneurship journey started. you know, Africa is where you have a lot of powerful startups springing up, you know, with Nomba is one of it. So how did it all come about? What is the origin? What inspired you to solve this problem you're solving?
Okay, mine was I think a bit accidental. So
Okay.
I started writing software, you know, very early. Started my programming career like age 11 or 12.
What?
You know, but I've always just
then programming was not really a big thing. We were just
it wasn't, and I didn't even grow up in Lagos, so I grew up in Abeokuta. It's like you know, you didn't even have power, not to talk of a computer. So it's like I would probably just like sneak into like the computer lab and just go try out my stuff on a few programming languages. But anyway, when I went to the university, I started building out like web applications and stuff. So even though I was studying mechanical engineering, I was trying my hands on just building projects for people.
But when you were already doing computer related stuff,
why did I take? I think it was a bit of arrogance. I kind of just felt like, what are they going to teach me that I already writing like Java and C# before university, so it was like, why go to school to go learn what you already do? So I said, okay, you know what? Let me. And I like machines, you know, and I still have passions about engines and stuff. So I decided to go do mechanical engineering. Anyway, to cut the long story short, in my fourth year in the university, I was supposed to go take an internship. So the regular Part 4 IT program.
Everywhere we do that.
Exactly. So nice. I was, instead of looking for a mechanical engineering opportunity, I found a job where it was an entrepreneur in residence role in a fintech in Nigeria. This was like 2012 or 2013. So I pretty much just took the job. And so my job was like, I was building software at night, but I was selling the solution during the day. You know, I was working with like different leadership team, you know, in the company to basically build solutions for payments. And then we had, you know, this like, call it control room where the dashboards were, but you know, I was an intern, we weren't allowed to
go in there.
So there was this particular day that, you know, and we had like this CEO, very, you know, strong face man, you don't go to his corner. So one day I walked to the control center and I saw this big screen and I saw these zeros, like I think it was 3 billion naira or something like that, you know, that they had processed and they were taking a fee. That was the first time in my life that I realized that technology businesses were actually businesses. Prior to then, I was reading TechCrunch, I was reading a bunch of what you just see, this person raised $5 million, this kid raised. So in my mind, I thought that this tech thing is just like, people just raise money to do whatever. But like, these guys were making money. I was like, I have to do this thing. So I went back to school and like in 6 months, launched my own first payment startup. Which was
in school?
In my university, my final year in school, raised $100,000.
What? As a student in school?
It was crazy. Like I went on LinkedIn, you know, and there was this guy.
This is like Max story, man.
I know, right? So there was this, you know. So the problem I was trying to solve was on my campus. The only way people pay was cash because one, banks were not giving POS machines to merchants.
Back then POS was not
this
really
was
popular.
2013. Students had cards, but we had to all go queue at the ATMs. So pretty much did a science experiment with a few friends where we launched these NFC cards, you know, and then we had like a small agent network where you could top up the cards with cash. And then we had like 100 retailers on campus that had these smartphones that we gave them. And you just had to tap and pay.
You tap and pay.
In no time, we had like 3,000 students using it.
What?
We're like making crazy money. And I was in final year in school, right? So it was like just a cool project on the side. But
and you did the coding, you did everything yourself and launched the whole... Wow.
And then, of course, I needed money to, you know, I think the biggest cost, right? The business was CapEx heavy. You had to buy the cards from China and the phones that the cards would work with. So I was like, how am I going to fund this project?
That's where the funding came in.
So one day I went to my LinkedIn and, you know, I looked at some guy that I'd never met this guy before, but we had kind of just connected on LinkedIn and he looked like somebody that could be an investor. Then I'm like, I'm building this thing that's going to be the biggest payments solution in Africa. Literally, my words was like, this is going to be bigger than InterSwitch and I need money to do this thing. And this guy's like, I'm in for $25,000. Like, never met me before.
What?
Never met me before. We jumped on a call, you know, and it was actually a young guy as well. He was working in Canada at the time.
Okay.
And then we became friends eventually and literally invested the first $25,000 in the business. And that allowed us to scale to like 5,000 students on our campus. And eventually, towards the end of my final year, came to Lagos, talked to a few investors, raised $100,000, went back to school, and kind of just took it into about 3 or 4 universities and just scaled it from there.
Wow, that is amazing. That's amazing. As a student, you were able to, so you scale to other universities and started using the same system in other places as well.
So it became like, people were using it for, even in Lagos, we were powering like the biggest events, Asha live in concerts. We did like a lot of events in Lagos. We were doing like bus transit projects in Lagos.
Wow.
A couple of state governments in the north were using it for tax collection. Even in Ogun State was using it for, like, it became a really big project. We probably, it's been a while, it's probably like 7 years ago. Like it became a thing. Yeah.
That's really impressive. Yeah. So then how did Kudi come about? Because you've done this, so you've put your hands in there, you've gone into payments, you've practicalized it, you've learned, you've made mistakes, you've had successes as well. So how did you translate into doing Kudi? So tell us about Kudi and tell us how it all came about.
Yes, so I think the learning that I had from all of that experience was obviously building a product, trying to make money with it and all of that. But one of the things I soon realized, I think 2 years into the startup, was that one, we're kind of fragmenting an already fragmented space, right?
Okay.
So our own payment solutions were not connected to the entire banking system. It was just a closed loop system, right? And I wanted to do something more inclusive where, if you were a customer of a bank, you could walk in and use our solution. If anybody could use it beyond just our own type of customers.
Yeah.
And at the time, my investors and, my team and my co-founder then actually didn't believe that was a thing. They felt like we could sort of build our own card network, and kind of just become like another Visa, MasterCard.
Okay.
The way I saw it at that point was, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to create a card scheme. I think it was just more like, I wanted to aggregate
collaboration.
Exactly.
Bring those other.
Yeah. So the idea behind Kudi was, so I left the company actually, late 2016 and just spent like the next 6 months figuring out what to do with my life.
Do next?
And, so I then reached out to one of my, very old friends from school, and I'm like, I have this idea, let's do payments, but now let's do payments that allows other people, use like their bank identification numbers and all of that to make transactions. So our first iteration actually was a Facebook chat bot. You could go on Facebook Messenger to send money to people. It was called Kudi.ai. And so we launched that January of 2017. And then we applied it to Y Combinator. This was the batch after Paystack and Flutterwave. So it was still, YC was still like a very
new stuff around.
New stuff, right? And then we got in and, YC funded us $120,000.
Wow.
And then we spent like 3 months in San Francisco figuring out how to scale this thing. And so what I'm pretty much saying is that the whole idea behind Kudi was, how do I build payments for like mass markets?
Yeah.
But it was also like a lot of people already have bank accounts, but they were just not being used enough, right? Or a lot of people didn't have bank accounts. How could we bank them and give them access to basic financial services?
Very interesting. So you know what really intrigued me was, at that time people were building fintech thinking of, okay, how can I collect payments from people already online?
Yeah.
Users and merchants that have the capacity to put their product online. Then how can I help merchants get payments from these users? I already have cards all over. But what you guys did is that you're thinking about the unbanked people.
Yeah.
And that's really a tough area, because at this point, if I'm going to put like an API somewhere online, you just go and swipe your card and let me collect money. But you guys now went through the agent route. That is a more difficult route, a more rigorous, capital intensive, So how, and this was way back in 2018, right?
Yes, 2018. Yes.
Yeah, and how were you able to figure out that this agent network is going to be a big thing? Right now, I can't even imagine how many agent networks you have as compared to other agent network systems around.
Yeah.
So how were you able to tap into the opportunity earlier enough to see that, okay, this is going to be a big thing in Nigeria?
So if you look at our journey, from Kudi to Nomba, initially we wanted to do consumer banking, and what we realized soon was that if you were going to scale consumer banking, so a lot of people that were signing on our chatbot, for example, didn't have debit cards, and we
Yeah.
wanted them to connect cards so that we can charge their accounts. So we soon realized that you could probably get to the first 1 million, 2 million, 3 million consumers
Yes.
that already had bank accounts. You could sort of like build a better user experience than the regular banks. But if you were going to scale like, banking to call it 40, 50 million Nigerian adults,
Yeah.
you actually need a call it infrastructure that allows cash in to move in and out of digital platforms.
Exactly.
So for us, the agent network actually wasn't the entire picture. It was the first phase of our vision. It's like, let's build an agent network that allows people put cash in and cash out of bank accounts and digital wallets. So sometime in 2018, we launched our agent network. I think by the end of 2018, we probably had like 300 or 400 agents. But the thing was that the transactions were growing really fast. By Q1 2019, we probably already had like 4,000 agents. And at this point, actually,
And they're doing big volumes.
yes,
right?
we're probably doing, can't remember now, it's been so long. But
Yeah.
and we then soon raised a $5 million Series A,
Okay.
in 2019 to then, and the old thesis of, behind that fundraise was, how do we figure out, how does this scale, right? How do you go from a business that makes $1 million a year to, $100 million a year?
Exactly.
So we said, one, we had to expand this network to north of 100,000 agents. So now we have about 186,000 agents and merchants on our platform across Nigeria. So we were also very intentional about just building this network across the country. So it's like every city you go, every state you are, every local government you we have to be present there. And so sort of like that's how we did it, and that's why we did it. Okay.
So my other question is, and I believe I'll be asking this question for a lot of other startups as well.
Okay.
What's your thought around funding? Funding in Africa is a very huge challenge for a lot of startups. They have this fantastic idea. Some people have even started already. But receiving the funds, getting access to investors and getting access to funding to push that idea becomes a very huge challenge. And for you, while you're in school, you're able to access funding. So and I know funding has never been a challenge for Nomba and even your journey so far. So what will you tell startups that are having challenges raising funds to push their business? What advice and tips you have?
No, funding is hard. It's really
You
tough
can't
for
even kid
everyone.
us.
It's tough for everyone. And I think one of the hardest stage of funding that I have seen is when you actually just start.
Yeah.
And the reason is that you're betting. You have to convince people to believe in your idea.
Yeah.
Without you don't have like records or traction to show sometimes, or the traction is too small for anyone to take you seriously.
Yeah.
So the way I have always thought about funding is to actually never be in a place where you need funding. And it sounds really counterintuitive, but when I look at my journey, so for example, when I was raising my Series A in 2019, I was making $1 million a year and I was profitable.
Okay.
So the first thing was I actually didn't need money. So what happened was that like these funds basically came to me and said, we're going to put $2 million in your company, and here's a $2 million term sheet. And I was like, I didn't need the money. And then of course the investor looked at me and was
and I'll be like,
no one says no to $2 million. Right?
Yeah.
But the truth is that we were building a business, like we're making enough money to pay our employees. Everybody was living a good life. So we didn't need the money. So, when they came back and said $5 million, I said, oh boy.
let's look at it again.
So if you think about it, like different cadres of companies, right? I think obviously you have to be a good storyteller to be able to raise money. People are trying to fund, and if you look at the way VC works, right? VCs are trying to fund companies that are going to give them $1 billion outcome. So today, if you're trying to raise a Series A and you probably don't make $2-3 million or $1 million a year, it's tough to do those types of round of funding, especially in the current markets that we are in. And then when you also think about growth stages, for example, you're trying to do a Series B, you probably have to be doing $10 million a year in revenues.
Wow.
I think the problem in our ecosystem that I've seen generally is that a lot of founders actually don't talk about the things you need to do for the funding to come. There's a lot of, this person just raised. So the way I see it is that, I think there's a a mix of being a great storyteller, but also be brutally good at execution that you have to do at the same time. But the hardest part is when you just start because you have no resources to actually do anything. So the way I see how to navigate out of that, especially when you're a technology business, is one, making sure you have technical founding team. Because what that does for you is that the first 12 months, you're probably writing code. If you don't have money, but you can write code, you don't have to pay for anything. So for me and, my co-founder, for example, we pretty much wrote the entire code base.
You're both technical.
Yeah, we're both technical. So we pretty much wrote the entire code base for the product to launch. So that meant like tens of thousands you would have been paying to engineers that might not even build what you want, or probably working on a project part-time.
That's a good value.
Yeah. So I see it a lot that a lot of startups raise money at seed, right? People are trying to convince investors to give them money to build products. Investors don't think that way. Nobody wants to give you money to build your product. They want to give you money to scale the product, right? So you kind of have to build the product so that you show that at least there's something there, and you have a little bit of. And VC actually funds like growth. That's what VC funds. Like it's like if you can't show consistently, like we call it like hockey stick, right? If you can't show like this thing moving to the moon, right? I was like, no, I'm not really sure. They will be like, oh, we'll come back in 6 months, we'll come back in 12 months. That's the short answer for.
But you need money to make him get to that.
I know. It's tough. It's tough, and I think that the advice I always have for founders is one, as much as possible, have product and engineering talent on the founding team so you don't have to pay for it. And two is monetize as soon as possible.
Okay.
Because when you monetize and you have, especially right now where there's not as much funding happening globally because of inflation, recession, and a bunch of things. So VCs aren't like funding like crazy deals anymore. Everybody's like saying, okay, let's slow down and stuff.
Yeah.
But great businesses would always be able to fundraise. And what making money actually, and making a lot of money as a company does is it gives you optionality, So for example, there was a time last year that I was trying to do some fundraise, and I went into the fundraise just not even taking it seriously. And I got in a couple of term sheets, $8 million here, 15 there. And I didn't take a lot of, those terms just because I didn't need the money, because, my business was generating enough cash to keep funding the. So, but I think that, but there are certain businesses that sadly, your monetizing is probably in the future. Like you probably need to get a certain amount of scale to be able to generate. So if you're building that kind of business, you have to be a great storyteller. You literally have to inspire people to say,
sell the future.
You're building the future. And investors fund that actually. But like, if you're not convincing enough, you're not, like you basically have to be
audacious and confident. This is what it's going to be.
We are going to win. Like you have to, you look at someone with a straight face and ask for $50 million for nothing. I've seen it before done. And I always wonder why investors, there was a time I was talking to an investor that just put in $200 million in a company that wasn't like doing much traction. And I was like, why? And first of all, he told me about the story of the founder. Like the founder executed in the past, they sold a couple of companies for $500 billion. So this is a OG, first of all, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is that the founder had like the future he was building. He wasn't probably going to make any serious money for the next 5 years, but like his story was believable.
Yeah.
And so a lot of
have a believable story.
Yes. A lot of people don't put enough time into planning for a fundraise. So when you go and meet an investor, when they ask you certain questions and you kind of like are not really sure, they're like, I'm not sure I want to back this guy. But for founders that are like very, and you see it, the founders that go look at most companies, even in Africa, that have raised like not $100 million, the founders are great storytellers. And you always have to be, you always have to be selling, always have to be raising, always have to be telling your story.
Yeah.
Someone is going to buy it at some point. And then, so that was like the first time when we felt like, okay, it could make sense for us to focus on the markets where the banks weren't, really tapping into the opportunities. But then we didn't even make the change immediately. So we went to like, I think like by April, we're already now doing maybe 60, $1,000 a month in transactions, but we're making, we're generating revenue. As a matter of fact, we're losing money per transaction. So, because our pricing, again, I guess I had not learned my lesson. Our pricing didn't make sense because bank transfers in Nigeria would typically charge you a flat fee.
Yeah.
And then if you had to use a payment processor that would first charge like 1.5% on the card, it basically just doesn't work. But then we had one customer that was using the chat bots that typically would almost transfer money like maybe 10 times a day. And ideally, like the average cost DNA of our customer would probably, best case, transfer money 3 times a month. So we will block this guy's accounts and he will create another Facebook account. As a matter of fact, at some point, he had like 5 accounts that were transferring money at the same time.
Wow.
So we were sure that it was fraud. So we were basically like blocking his account, he will create a new one, block his account, he'll create a new one. And then I think he sent like 100,000. And then we charged this card, but we didn't terminate the money to the destination account that at least he will show up. So then the guy reaches out and says, oh, he wants to, that he sent money, didn't get there. And then we're like, well, there's some KYC that we need to verify, where are you? And then it's like, oh, it's somewhere in Ibejuleki. And we're like, okay, would you mind coming to our office in Lekki Phase 1? And then he showed up in the office. I remember that I was sitting at our boardroom then with him, and I was like, what do you do? And then it was like, he's an agent. And then we're like, what do you mean? It says that people come to his shops to send money, and that he has like 5 of those stores, which then makes sense that he had like 5 accounts on the chatbots. And then I remembered, I think it was Kwelumi that eventually even then went to him to one of the locations, and interestingly, it was in front of a Sterling Bank branch. Like people would rather come to him than go to the bank.
Yeah.
And then we're trying to understand why. But then one of the things that made sense was that many of these type of customers were probably like busy SMEs. So, think about a store owner that just wants to transfer this money and go. They don't want to go to a bank, you fill this form and then you wait on the queue and stuff. So eventually, so that was like the second, collision with sort of like agent banking. And then there was the third one was myself and one of my teammates had gone to Abuja to talk to some of our friends that were building some electricity payment company. And eventually we met someone that said, that they have like this agent network where they sell, that's how people buy electricity. And then we're like, why are people not buying online? We're like, well, yeah, we have an online channel, but like bulk of the market still uses this agent approach. Then we went to so then someone gave us like a list of all these agents. So many of them were like barbing salons, some were like restaurants, and then we went to talk to a lot of them, and we saw that they were basically like, selling electricity vouchers and stuff. So, and then it was like the time when we were sure that, okay, we needed to build this thing. And I remembered I then had a call with Pelumi that night. I'm like, by tomorrow we need an app for agents. And then it's like, we've built the company on a narrative of messaging. And interestingly, the next morning there was an app. And then at the hotel I was staying, myself and one of my colleagues that were in Abuja then went to like the business center there. So the guy that does like printing and it was sort of like a cyber cafe. And then we sold him this idea of you can buy airtime, you can sell data, you can do subscriptions and transfers for people on this app. And then that was like our first real agent. And also that was how we eventually pivoted. And I think that the interesting data point for us was between November and December, almost like 1 month of just like onboarding maybe about 300 agents on it. Our volumes literally grew like 3x. And then for the first time, we actually made real money.
You lose money.
Yeah, and it was like almost like a profitable month. So yeah, that's
like this.